Imagine what our economy would look like right now if we had no Apple, we had no Microsoft, we had no Facebook, we had no Google. We might look like a middling European country at this point. Europe's startups are booming, but bureaucracy is still the boss. Europe's entrepreneurs are full of ideas, but buried in paperwork, apparently. According to the Times, the European Union's startup scene has exploded, with 35,000 early-stage companies in 2024, 4 times more than a decade ago, and total investment reaching $426 billion. Yet when founders try to expand across borders, they hit a wall of bureaucracy. Each country still has its own maze of labor laws, environmental codes, and funding rules. Former European Central Banker President Mario Draghi warned that without a unified capital market and simpler rules, Europe could lose trillions in innovation by 2040. For many entrepreneurs, the U.S. remains the place to scale. Greek founder Yanis Galkis moved his cybersecurity company to America because, as he put it, you can grow faster here. Okay, what's the real message here? Yes, Europe does have a vibrant startup scene, but there's still so much bureaucracy. Those who are really ambitious, who want to grow quickly, still come to America. At least they try to. Let's dig a little bit deeper here. This, to me, is one of the great tragedies of what is happening in American policy now, making it harder for foreigners to move to the United States, to take jobs, to attend our universities, because the United States has historically had such a rich, vibrant startup culture. That's why we have a wildly successful economy. That's why, by some measures, we are still the largest economy in the world, the dominant economy, because we have such a vibrant startup community. Imagine what our economy would look like right now if we had no Apple, we had no Microsoft, we had no Facebook, we had no Google. We might look like a middling European country at this point. Not necessarily a bad place, but it would be a very, very different place. So there are 35,000 startups in the EU, but very few of them scale the way a Spotify did. Certainly not the way a Google does or a Facebook. And a part of it is, yes, there's this European Union, but each country can still have all sorts of pesky little regulations. There is the issue of language. I mean, that is one of the huge advantages anyone starting in a business in the United States has, is you've got this one giant open market. You pretty much can sell anything to all 50 states, with a few exceptions. And you can do everything just in English if you want to, and be wildly successful before you expand to Spanish and other languages. Europe, it's not like that. A couple of other cultural things that affect the startup community in the 2 different continents differently. One of them is funding. Every single venture-backed company in the United States gets, on average, $5 million of startup capital. In Europe, it's only $1 million. That's a 5-to-1 advantage for entrepreneurs who make it here in the United States and at least get to that level. And let's not forget, most ventures that get venture funding don't make it in the long run, but still, that is a major threshold to get over. Some other facts I want to bring to your attention. 55% of United States unicorn founders, these are the startups that become worth $1 billion early in their career. 55% of unicorn founders are immigrants. Some of the top immigrants here in the United States who have really had a huge impact on our economy, our startup economy, and our larger culture. Elon Musk, and we'll deal with his controversies another day. Sundar Pichai, Satya Nadella, the heads of Google and Microsoft. Sergey Brin of Google. Jensen Huang of NVIDIA. So there are just so many people who have really created huge businesses, hiring tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, in some cases, millions of employees. They all came from other countries. That has been the historic strength of the United States. And unfortunately, it's a strength that we're now ending. The United States has a lot of resources. We have the financial resources of the world's currency, uses our money, the US dollar. It's the default currency of the world. That helps us a lot, makes it a lot easier to do business. But the other great asset we had was this constant inflow of not only smart people from around the world, but the most ambitious people in the world. Not everyone dreams of becoming a billionaire. In fact, most people don't. And those who do are not really serious about it. But there's a tiny percentage of people around the globe at a young age where they're drawn to business, they're drawn to invention, they're drawn to creating. And these are the kids that their parents are not telling them, go get a paper route or go sell lemonade. They're doing it even if they have to sneak out of the house. There's a certain tiny percentage of people who are just naturally drawn to, and I was not one of them. I was one of those kids where I sold fewer magazine subscriptions for my junior high school than anyone else. I was not the kid who wanted to knock door to door to sell peanut brittle for my Cub Scout troop pack, I should say. So it's not about being virtuous or even smarter sometimes, but there's a certain type of person who is just drawn to be an entrepreneur, doesn't mind working 7 days a week, 20 hours a day to make their dream happen. And the United States has been a combination of smart and lucky, and that we've attracted these people. And now we're essentially saying no. Now, some of the arguments are, well, TJ, that's not really right. The smartest AI PhDs in the world don't want to come from India or China and work for some startup. They want the big cushy job from Meta or Google, and those companies can afford to pay $100,000 fee/bribe to the US government to let them in. Some of that is true, but there's some people who are already successful in their country, have already started a business, would love to move to the United States, but they want to do it for their own startup that's already doing pretty well in their country. It's much, much harder for them to come to the United States. They don't necessarily want to pay the $5 million for the golden pass or whatever it's called. The other bigger issue is so many people who are really ambitious around the globe decide in high school, I want to move to America and I want to make it big in America. I want to be the next Elon Musk. I want to be the next Steve Jobs. And so they are trying to go to college in the United States because they've heard if you go to a place like Stanford, a place like Harvard, you could follow in the footsteps of a Sergey Brin or a Bill Gates. And what we are seeing, the data is coming in every day from colleges around the country, that foreign enrollments are going way, way down. Foreign students are being discouraged from attending. They're not getting access to our schools. The official policy in the United States government now is try to keep these foreigners out of here. And it's really destroying one of the great assets this country has with its economy. We're able to attract the top minds, people who are the ultimate job creators, people who start businesses that aren't just and there's nothing wrong with starting a mom and pop clothing shop or restaurant where you hire 5 people. Nothing wrong with that, that's great. But when you look at what these huge tech companies can do, the entrepreneurs, when they really work, they work big time and they can create jobs for hundreds of thousands of people. Do they solve every problem? Are they perfect employers? No, but it's a lot better than being in a country that doesn't have any of that. Now, I've spent a fair amount of time in other countries around the world. I've had the good fortune to work in 45 nations, working with political leaders and business leaders. And a lot of them are lovely places. One of the best places I've ever been in, going back 20 years ago, was a tiny country, Slovenia. Great quality of life, beautiful cafes and infrastructure and nature. But it would be pretty hard to start a tech company and turn it into $1 billion unicorn if you're based in a tiny little country like that. There's just too many roadblocks. Now, I'm all in favor of other countries getting rid of roadblocks, and if the EU follows the advice of Mario Draghi and makes it easier for startup founders to do well there, that's great. But we can't control other countries. If you are watching today from the United States, or you hope the United States does better, we can control our policies here. And I think it's absolute insanity that we are not openly encouraging the brightest, the best, the most ambitious from around the world to come here. That is, in fact, what has made America what it is. It's what it's made America great.